Hey, welcome. Have you ever felt like your spiritual life is just kind of stuck? Like you're going through all the motions, but that fire you once had is kind of cooled off? If that sounds even a little bit familiar, believe me, you are not alone. So, in this explainer, we're going to break down some really powerful ideas for how to reignite that passion and, well, train for a deeper spiritual life.
Okay, so the first big thing we've got to tackle is a problem that's as old as faith itself. It's that slow, almost invisible drift away from what got us so excited in the first place. It happens to pretty much everyone, but, just recognizing it, that's the absolute first step toward finding our way back.
Now, what's so wild about this quote is who it was written to. This was for the church in Ephesus. And by all outward appearances, these guys were the model church. I mean, they were hardworking, they had their doctrine down cold, and they didn't put up with any nonsense. But right in the middle of all that correct activity, their hearts had gone cold. They were doing everything right, but the love was gone.
And that just brings this ancient problem crashing right into our lives today, doesn't it? Does any of this feel familiar? It is so easy to get wrapped up in all the religious activity, volunteering, studying, showing up, and to mistake all that busyness for a real, deep, intimate relationship with God. We can be incredibly busy for God without actually being close to God.
So, if that's the problem, what on earth is the solution? Well, the idea here is to make a really powerful shift in our mindset. What if, instead of seeing spiritual disciplines as just another chore on the to do list, we started thinking of them as a workout for the soul?
I love this quote from the legendary coach Tom Landry because it just nails the point. Of course, the players always wanted to win the Super Bowl, right? But what they didn't always want was those brutal two-a-day practices in the Texas heat. It's the same thing for us. We all want that deep spiritual maturity, but we don't always want to do the hard work it takes to get there. Spiritual victory, just like a championship ring, requires discipline.
And listen, this isn't just some modern metaphor we came up with. The Bible itself uses this exact same athletic language. When the Apostle Paul tells Timothy to discipline yourself for the purpose of godliness, the Greek word he uses is gymnazo. I mean, that's literally where we get our word gymnasium. This tells us that godliness isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we have to actively train for. It's a workout.
And here's the absolute key. No one can do your workout for you. A coach can give you the plan, but you're the one who has to show up and lift the weights. The whole point of this conditioning is to turn those game-winning abilities, things like patience or forgiveness, into second nature, into habits that are just part of who you are. Okay, so if this is a workout, then what are the exercises? There are a bunch we could talk about, but for this explainer, we're going to focus on 3 foundational workouts that you can start with right now to begin this spiritual training. Our first exercise is simplicity. The best way to think about this is like decluttering. It's the essential act of creating the mental and spiritual space that you need for a deep relationship with God. It's basically weeding the garden of our minds so that something beautiful actually has room to grow.
So, where does all this mind clutter even come from? Well, we say yes to way too many things. We don't actually plan for rest, we just fill up any empty space we find. We live with the crushing weight of debt. And we trick ourselves into believing our gadgets are making life simpler, when really, they're just adding more noise. It's like Henry David Thoreau said, our lives are frittered away by detail.
And just look at the difference here. A cluttered life is reactive, it's anxious, and it leads to a shallow existence. But a simple life? That's intentional. It's peaceful. It allows us to go so much deeper. Simplicity isn't really about having less. It's about making room for what actually matters. All right, our next 2 exercises, silence and solitude. They really work hand in hand. These are the workouts for slowing down our pace in a world that is just constantly screaming for our attention. They're about creating the quiet that allows us to finally hear that still, small voice of God. This one word, it is so powerful. It comes from Psalm 46. In the original Hebrew, you have all this chaos going on. Mountains are falling into the sea, nations are in an uproar, and in the middle of all that, God gives this single sharp command, ro pa, cease. It means relax, be quiet, let go. In a world that screams at us, do more, go faster, this is a revolutionary command to just stop. And if we need a role model for this, we've got the ultimate one. I mean, think about Jesus' ministry. It was a whirlwind of nonstop activity, people pulling at him from every direction. And yet, what did he do? He got up early while it was still dark, and he found a quiet place to pray. He made solitude a non-negotiable priority.
He showed us that even the most important mission in the world requires stepping away to recharge. Now, it would be so easy to hear all of this and think the goal is to become some kind of perfect, morally flawless person. But that brings us to what is, without a doubt, the most important part of this entire explainer: understanding the real goal of all this training.
So yeah, why do all this work? What's the trophy we're trying to win here? The whole point is that the goal isn't what we might think it is. It is not about beating ourselves into submission or trying to somehow earn God's love and acceptance. This is the crucial point. These exercises are not about earning a relationship with God. They're the way you get to actually experience that relationship, to enjoy the acceptance you already have. You're not training to get on the team, you're training because you're already on it. This verse right here is the heartbeat of this entire idea. The Apostle Paul lays out his ultimate purpose in life, and it isn't to be perfect or famous or successful. It's simply this: that I may know him, to become more deeply and intimately acquainted with Jesus. That is the goal of the workout. And this simple statement sums up the whole thing perfectly. All of these practices, the disciplines, they're the means, they're the path. But the destination, the why behind it all, is a deeper, more personal intimacy with God. The how is always, always in service of the why. So as we finish up, I really want to leave you with this question. Just think about it. Based on everything we've talked about, what's one thing, one commitment, one distraction, one source of clutter that you can cease doing starting today to make just a little more room for what's truly essential?